Big money, a term used to describe the incredibly wealthy and powerful individuals of the world. Money comes with a heavy-handed political influence in American politics. This is not a new thing. The question is how money factors into the political process at one of its most critical points, getting elected. Campaign finance is incredibly important and requires a lot of capital in order to be successful. According to Time magazine, by the time the next president is elected, 4.4 billion will have been spent on television ads alone. So clearly there is a lot of money that goes into this. But just how much? New York Times states that the average cost to campaign for a House seat is 1.4 million. Senate seat, roughly 10 million. How much did it cost President Obama in 2008? 747.7 million. That was prior to the proliferation of super PACs. Super PACs now play a huge role in inflating campaign costs. The cost of running a campaign contributes to a lot of problems within an election. High costs can filter out left and centrist candidates, creating a polarized political environment. Candidates are going to have to keep high costs in mind throughout the campaign term and future elections. Eventually, big money causes voters to distrust candidates, leading to a rise of outside candidates like Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, two extremely dividing presidential candidates. The rise of these outside candidates is most evidently a symptom of a frustrated American public. Promises of being independent of Wall Street and big money have resonated with much of the public. According to the Federal Election Committee, Bernie Sanders has raised more money through individual donations than any other candidate. Donald Trump has personally funded his own campaign. No other candidate has spent more money on their own campaign than Donald Trump. But there is another force at play: super PACs. According to OpenSecrets.org, as of June 24, 2016, super PACs have raised over $750 million and independent expenditures of over $400 million. Super PACs are the product of the court case Citizens United versus the Federal Election Committee. 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court decided that it would be in violation of the First Amendment to restrict the spending of corporations, unions, and other groups on political campaigns. This led to the creation of many super PACs. Money began to pour into political campaigns. Super PACs allowed for large donors to put as much money as they pleased to political campaigns. The limit on how much money individuals can give to a candidate directly does not apply to super PACs. This allows for unlimited spending. The amount of money required to run for office creates a fairly significant barrier to entry where there should be none. In an article done by Northwestern Professor Benjamin Page, money can make it difficult for certain kinds of candidates to be elected. Money filters out the economically left and centrist candidates. For economically left candidates, the affluent tend to be more economically conservative, so it's hard for liberal candidates to make a splash in any kind of election where large financing is required. This makes Bernie Sanders such a standout in this election season. His ideology is a rarity on such a big stage. Money also pushes out the more bipartisan candidates. Districts are set up to favor one political party over another, causing primaries to be dominated by political activists and money givers who usually hold more extreme views, leading to the rejection of all but the most partisan. This causes polarization and gridlock in the legislative process. Page goes on to explain the other effects of money in politics. Money gives those who have it more influence in other ways. Once a candidate makes office, they aren't free from the need for capital. The next election looms around the corner. This takes away from their duties while in office. The need for capital creates access to officials that most Americans don't have. The wealthy, to a degree, can insert themselves in the political process by offering information and expertise, giving those who are more affluent more influence than those who are not. The products of money and influence on politics does not sit well with the American public. The public has displayed its disapproval of these antics and has given rise to a new breed of presidential candidate. Note that the problem I'm pointing out here is the public dissatisfaction, not the new candidates themselves. Donald Trump, easily the most polarizing of any of the presidential candidates, has resonated with a very specific and forgotten group of people. In an article posted by The Guardian's Thomas Frank, he explains how America's two-party machine has simply forgot about working-class people. A big topic of Trump's campaign is trade. He addresses the issue of trade with competence and complexity, outlining why the recovery from the recession has been so slow and why working-class people are losing their jobs. He paints a pretty incriminating picture of big business, Democrats and Republicans. Then we have Bernie Sanders, self-proclaimed democratic socialist. Without going into too much detail, Bernie Sanders has announced Wall Street, and his policies will be the most damaging out of any of the presidential candidates. All this information points to campaign finance as a major issue. Campaign finance laws have created a hole. Unless the laws are changed, that hole can only be filled with money. Thanks to super PACs, limits on individual donations to campaigns no longer factor. It requires millions of dollars to run for public office these days. That puts a wall that pushes out certain candidates. The need for capital creates access and influence for affluent individuals. This has clearly created unrest in the American public and should be addressed.